Kayvana Parker, it is such a pleasure to have you on my podcast. We're going to dig into your unexpected journey into sales and enablement. And we're going to share some of your messages from the heart on sales and training that we all need to hear. But before we get into that, before this podcast, before we went live right now, you asked me, how are you doing? You're checking in with me. And I want to understand, what's that all about?
Yeah. We live in a very performative culture. And I know for myself, no matter what happens, I want to show up. I don't want to cancel. I don't want to be late. So regardless of what might have happened right before this call, I want to just show up for that and give my best for that. And I've found that I show up as a better human, better leader, better coach, whatever title I'm fulfilling in this moment, when I just take a moment to acknowledge that I'm actually not okay right now, right? Or, I didn't eat this morning. So if I'm a little bit snippy, this is the reason why. And not everyone has to give a reason why. They can just say, like, I'm not in the best of places, but I am present and I am here, because I know it's helped me as a human being, as a professional, as a mother. I found that when I'm able to give the people that I'm interacting with that same space to pause and check in with themselves before they come in to whoever they feel like they need to be for the moment, it builds trust, allows for safety. And as we continue future relationships, they feel more open to even expressing adverse opinions when they don't agree, when they do agree. We can just have more honest communication because they know that before we got into anything, I just ask, how are you? How are you coming into this today? And when we had a conversation, I'm like, let me just check in with Chris. The AC's working today. We're good.
Yeah, my AC broke. And it's actually, I'm waiting on a new one, but okay. I didn't sleep for the night, I think, before we spoke, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important AC is. I was laying there in bed sweating. Bella's panting. My puppy, and we have a temporary fix. But you're right. You never know what's going on. And I will admit, I didn't tell you this, but what I did say is, hey, I want to embrace playful curiosity in this podcast, which I do.
Yeah.
But this morning I got up, I slept in a little more than I had planned because I wanted to get a good night's sleep and be refreshed for this. But I noticed I had a certain routine, and I ended up, I basically was running from the ice bath. Okay. I did an ice bath. And so I didn't give myself enough margin. And so I was rushed in my head, and you allowed me to take a moment to even though I didn't vocalize it, chill out. But at least now I can vocalize it. Be real. This is the real me. Sometimes I'm running from the ice bath of all things because it boosts. I feel great. But I appreciated you asking that because it allowed us to pause and recalibrate.
For sure.
So is that question for leaders? And I know the answer is yes, to ask the individuals they're working with, but also for a question you can ask your family, your peers, or what if you're an SDR in tech sales? And I wonder, is it funny to ask that to your boss? Is this a question that anyone at any level can use? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I encourage it. It's one of those things where it's something that can change the world, but it's a each one teach one, right? So another example of this is I have in my email signature something along the lines of, if now is not a good time for you, or if you're away from your computer, or if you're not at work right now, please feel free to respond when you are back at work, functioning. Yes. Because I might be a 2 a.m., email sender or something, but I don't want you to feel like you have to respond to me just because you happen to roll over and check your phone and feel obligated to respond. And folks have adopted that signature because they respected it. And so now they're adding it to their signature. And I got it from someone who coached me. And it's like an each one teach one. That signature can literally change the world, but it's one person who adopts it at a time. And the same thing applies for this. If you're an SDR and you're making a cold call, or you're an account executive, you're about to have a demo, and before you start, you check in with, your prospects, or you check in with your manager, and your manager feels seen from his direct report, right? Like, or her direct report, then now they're gonna hopefully adapt that and turn back and say, hey, you checked on me last time, I want to check on you. How are you? Before you know it, you have a culture at a company or your environment that's now just checking in on each other. So I 100% encourage it. Family members, if I have to deliver, or if I have to, family can be tricky, right? And, we don't have the best relationships with everyone. Sometimes before I have to say something that's like, me, hey, this hurt my feelings, or I don't like this, I'm like, hey, are you like in the right mindset to I'm gonna tell you something, but I just want to make sure, are you good if I tell you something pretty harsh right now, or something like that? Because we don't think about how sometimes a person may not be able to receive the news that you share, not because they're not able to, they don't want to get it, but because the environment wasn't right for them to get it. Right. But did we check on the environment? No, we just felt like we felt something, so we gonna say it. So I usually just take a pause. So I encourage everyone to.
The email signature resonated with me because last night I was emailing some executives, right? Some of them to invite on my podcast, some, for other business reasons. And I do get struck by inspiration late at night, but it could be triggering in a bad way for people who are receiving those after hours when they're trying to detach from work. And so I definitely will want to steal that from you and follow up with you on that. And maybe we could even, link it in the description of this video. But what great insights. And it's so important to check in with people to see how they're actually doing, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. One other vulnerable nugget from me on this topic of checking in before we go into your crazy story, how you unexpectedly stumbled into sales, and you have some funny moments I can't wait for us to hear and experience. But one vulnerable moment is that I've always felt shame around if I wasn't my happy self, because I always was known as the happy, positive guy. And even when I worked at Google, when we're in the office, if I was not in a really cheery mood, because I'm pretty cheery, people are like, is everything okay? And even when you checked in with me, I have a little bit of shame. I feel bad and that's completely on me. If I'm not at my best, it's almost embarrassed for people to observe that, to think are you okay? And that's on me. And it's it was so thoughtful for you to check. So that's just an interesting thing to look at. Because I will say, this is more just funny thing, but my manager, Kirsten Black, one of my best managers at Google, said I was lightning in a bottle. And my buddy Jay said, I'd like to do an fMRI scan on your brain to see what goes on. Kate back over at Oracle is like, how are you so happy all the time? And I'm not all the time. And so I think the part of the cost of that is if I'm not, super ebullient, it seems like something's wrong. So anyways, any thoughts on my own perception where I actually feel a little bit of shame when someone's checking, oh, do they think something's wrong with me?
I can totally relate. And I don't think it's on you. I think it's just a cultural and societal norms that we have just adapted, especially when you're in corporate settings. I mean, think about me. My title is unboring, right? I am that name precedes me, right? That's going to be there before I walk in. Yes. So if I'm not 100%, but my branding is unboring, I have to put that disclaimer, right? Or I feel like I have to, right? Maybe I don't. But when I create an environment that allows for us to say, typically in my trainings or my workshops, group workshops, I'll say on a scale of 1 to 5, where are you? 1 meaning I was good coming in, but when I walked into the door, something changed and now I'm really not in it. 5 is I'm all in, I'm ready. I'm running through walls, right? So I wouldn't put so much pressure on yourself to say that's on me. I would say that it's been a culture in just environments in general. And once you begin to remove that shame and give yourself permission to you don't have to give a reason if you don't want to. You can, though, clear the air or just make room and make space for you to exist in whatever percentage you're showing up in by saying, listen, y'all, it's 10:30. I had a morning, so I'm not showing up at a completely 100%, but I am committed to the work that we're doing in this session or whatever. And then just, keep it at that.
I'm going to give you the 97% I got.
Right, exactly. Like, I'm here with what I have, and that's that,
Tech sales is an amazing career path where you can make as much as doctors and lawyers without having to cut anyone open or work ungodly hours. Looking back 10 years later, having personally started out in tech sales at Oracle, then moved to Google Cloud and a startup, and now fully launching into entrepreneurship, I can say with confidence that tech sales transformed my life through the income that it produced, the skill development, the connections, and the self-development that I unlocked along the journey. If you're someone who wants to strategically build your own six-figure tech sales career without wasting valuable time and earnings potential, then consider Tech Sales Accelerator and our 12-week programs as your blueprint. Our partners are breaking in and crushing quota at top companies like Oracle, Google Cloud, VMware, and Salesforce, leveraging our in-depth video content, one-on-one coaching, community, and network access. And we'd love to partner with you too to accelerate your own success on this path. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Sales Accelerator and our programs, then feel welcome to book time at my Calendly link, linked in the description of this video, and we'll walk you through all the details. Or just download my free cold calling system that's going to help you crush the phones quickly, also linked in the description of this video. All right, let's get back to the episode.
You know what? The book, The Four Agreements, was one that I really enjoyed. And one is always do your best. And that's so powerful because we could be sick one day, but we can still give our best, and our best is going to be less than when we're at 100%. But that, to me, is one of the North Stars, is that, hey, I'm going to give my best given the context. And it's okay to know on some days we're not going to feel 100%. We're not going to have the full capacity. But what a great way to start the conversation. Thanks for the therapy session. I didn't expect to go there. But now let's get into your story of how you stumbled upon sales. And there might be stilettos and heels involved and some chocolate. And how did you end up accidentally stumbling upon sales?
Yeah, I went to school for music. What was a music and sound recording major, and I come from a Caribbean background. My parents are Jamaican, and it was like, all right, well, where's the business side of this? Like, what are we doing here, right? Music is fun and all, but where's the money coming in? So my junior year, I switched from music to business. And at that point, I just didn't really know what to do with that, right? Business is so broad. I had not considered myself to be like an entrepreneur. So what do I do there? And a college advisor came and was like, what are you doing? Where are you going? What's life after college going to look like? And I said, I don't know, either join the military, join the Air Force, or figure something out. She said, absolutely not. That's not happening. She walked me over to a college fair that was happening a couple days later. And at the time, my Instagram handle was Coco K Butter, because I'm a chocolate girl.
How do you spell butter?
B-U-T-T-A.
Okay, that's what I hoped.
And I saw this.
Hey, it's Butter and Bussing.
There we go. See, look at that. New title, right? And there was this huge banner that said Nestle on it. And I had nothing to lose. So I just, like, my fun, bubbly self, I just was like, hey, you're the chocolate company and you need to hire the chocolate girl. And we had a conversation and it went well. And yeah, they basically offered me the role on the spot. So I was able to start working as a leadership sales development, or DSL, district sales leader, at Nestle, like right after graduation. So that was my introduction into sales.
Wow. I love the confidence, your authenticity, your creativity. So it was just one conversation and you got the job?
Well, no, there was a whole interview process, right? But it was the introduction to the interview process. Usually you have to apply beforehand and do the whole thing. He basically just said, hey, the interviews are happening on this day. You're going to be with so-and-so, so-and-so. So yeah. So I got to bypass the application process.
So you really had some swagger in confidence. And, you know, it reminds me of when I started at Oracle. They came to my university and I went up to Sean, the recruiter at the career fair, and I said, bring me in, I'm going to make it happen. And it's like, it wasn't as creative as your line, but I was just confident. And it's amazing what some blind confidence can do for you, because I didn't know what I was really getting into. But man, thank God he brought both of us into the world of sales, because it's such a great path. And so I want to ask you a quick question about this path of being in the sales world. What has it opened up for you, and like, what do you love about sales as a profession?
Yeah. This is turning into a very psychological conversation. More
I
than
love psychology.
I loved it.
I think that's what this, you know, oh man, I love psychology.
Same. But that's really the gift of sales for me, is the evolution of identity and understanding of who I am and in certain spaces. Say you can hide in sales, meaning, and when I say that, I mean you can hide yourself and be whoever you want to be, because especially if you're cold calling, they don't know who you are. You can be a 50-year-old man, you could be a 20-year-old person, you can be whoever you want, right?
Hey, Vonna, there was a guy I brought on a CEO, and he'd say, hey, I'm Dennis. He'd like do a lisp. I'm not good at imitating it, but like he'd make a name Dennis. And he literally did that. So to your point, people would make up personalities, and you can do that.
Absolutely. I did all the time, especially when I was working at Yelp. But your success gets capped, because eventually, one, you either just get bored of either the makeup, or you start to come across people that can read it and that can tell, and then your authenticity needs to show up, and it doesn't take you to your full potential, and you'll never know what your full potential is, because you're always just hiding behind identities. When you do choose to show up as yourself, it requires a new level of just like capacity of what just gets unearthed from that, right? Like the truth of who you are in moments. Like, I'll give you an example. I was successful very early. Fortunately for me, I like was flying. And it wasn't until a couple of months before I got tapped for leadership that I had the worst months of my life. I couldn't close anything. I don't know what happened. I was like,
what company was this at?
Yelp.
Okay.
It was a Yelp. We were cold calling ads, and I was one call closed, and I had hat tricks. For those who don't know, hat tricks are 3 deals in a day. Like, I think my biggest close was like 7 deals in a day. I was doing the most. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. And I said, how is this possible? Right. And that's because I was chasing outcomes versus process. Right. And my manager at the time, he stopped me and he pulled me into a room and he said, I've been listening to your calls this morning. Let's play them. Played him. It was the first time I really listened to him. He said, nope, take the headphones out, put it on speaker. The whole room heard me and him. And I cried. And I cried because my active listening skills were shot. I don't even know how my responses were responses. It had nothing to do with what they had said. But I was so bullheaded and so like convinced that whatever I had to say was what I was going to say based off the identity that I had, that I didn't care about what it was they had preceded the conversation. And it was embarrassing. That's why nobody wanted to talk to me, because I wasn't listening to them. And I had to come to a realization to say that, whoa, not only am I missing out on sales because I'm a bad listener, but that's also why my relationship with my partner sucks. It's also why our relationship with my mom probably is taking a hit. And like, I just realized that, whoa, Kayvana, you are not a great listener. You have so much pride in what you want to say that you're going to say it regardless of whether or not it was the right time, the right place, if it was appropriate. You're just going to say it anyway. That was a truth moment. So sure, I was hiding, I was masking, I was doing all the things to try to like, whatever. But then there was a moment where I had to like look in the mirror, stop looking out the window, and that changed my whole life. So sales was the gift that showed me at every stage of my career who I was at that stage, who I wanted to become, and the things I needed to do to become that better person for that next stage.
That resonates with me so deeply. I really believe that sales is a vehicle to personal transformation by shining a mirror at the times we need it on maybe the blind spots we didn't know were there. I relate so much to you of like something I have struggled with is getting so caught up on what I want to say the way I want to say it. And the ego can just really get in the way of connection. And man, there's such an opportunity in sales to connect with our teammates, but our customers. And eventually I've seen customers become turn into mentorships and friendships too. And that's what's so beautiful. I don't think enough people talk about the friendship and relationship upside of sales, but I loved hearing your example with listening. And if we could get tactical for a moment, if someone is new to sales, I connect with some SDRs who are at Oracle that follow the podcast, and some are starting at startups and a range of companies. How would you encourage them to develop their active listening skills? And what we could also kind of go through an example of what it might look like. And maybe it's simply just pausing and asking good questions, but I'd love your thoughts and inspiration around how to develop your active listening skills.
Yes, two very, well, I won't say very simple, but two actionable items that you can do. One is the power of the pause. You don't have to respond immediately after someone finishes their sentence. You can embrace the silence for a moment. And very often, because we're uncomfortable with silence, we're uncomfortable with that space, we just want to fill the gap. So we ramble and we say things that maybe aren't distinct, they aren't poignant, they aren't relevant, but we're just chatting because we don't like the silence. So embrace the awkward, right, moments and pause for a moment until you gather your thoughts. You can even say, wow, thanks for that. Let me take a second here. You know, I'm very playful. I'm humorous. So I might say, hold on a second. Let me take a moment to really process what you just said, because that was great to give me some time to let go of the initial thought of where I thought the direction of the conversation was going to go, and now accept the new, layout that's just been presented to me. So power of the pause. 2, very tactically, repeat back to them what they just said to you. If all else fails, you don't know what the pause is, simply repeat it. So if you just said, Chris, Kevana, what are some steps that someone could take as an SDR at Oracle or someone like that? And I'm responding and I say, okay, Chris, thanks for the question. What I'm hearing you ask is, you want me to share some steps for reps that are, and you say it back so that they know that you heard them. That way, when you say your actual response, answering the question or moving the conversation forward, they know that it is specifically addressed to what it is that you said because you just repeated it back. You're also in that moment asking for confirmation that, did I get that correct? So we're both affirming that whatever it is that you do say is aligned with what they just asked or said of you.
So you want to make sure that what the individual says is aligned and that you're hearing them correctly. And if you can repeat back what they shared with you and do so accurately, it earns some trust. But even if it's not completely accurate, I imagine they could correct you a bit, and that still builds an actual conversation. Yep. And by the way, I tried there to apply a little bit of a pause. I could have done a better job, because you know what? My brain was thinking about all these other amazing parts of Kevana's story and the things I want to ask you. So I'll admit, because there's a lot of good stuff to get to. But thank you for such actionable tips to pause more. Live in awkward. That's what a buddy of mine, Gerald, said back at Oracle when I started out 10 years ago. And it's exactly what you said.
Yep.
Then show active listening and repeat back what you heard. One of my account executive coaching clients, and I know you've coached a ton of people in tech sales. Now you have an exciting role with Uber coming up that we'll talk about later. One of my clients, I was listening to a discovery call of his, which is kind of fun, looking at the game tape, going line by line. And I liked, he did a great job of what you said, of repeating back to the prospect what they had said, and he got it right, and they really lit up, and they got even more engaged and leaned in more and shared more information.
Yep.
So what are a couple other skills, while we're on the topic of skills, that help sellers be truly great? Because you already hit on one of the most fundamental, which is active listening. But are there a few others that are just absolutely fundamental to sales success?
Yeah, absolutely fundamental is being genuinely curious. That has gotten me further than anything else because all of the others are stems from the curiosity. Even active listening. If I'm genuinely curious, then I will actively listen. Or because I'm curious, I'll ask the questions because I'm listening and I'm curious as to what you are saying. So, genuine curiosity is the thing that will set a good rep apart from a great rep.
So, Professor, is genuine curiosity also unattached from the outcome? So it's not leading to try and ask the question to get the person to say that they have a need for your solution, although that can be the byproduct. But you're literally you're just curious. Like, can you tell me more about that? Oh, that is interesting. Really? Like, how
Yeah.
long is that taking? So is genuine curiosity? It's just unattached. You don't know where it's going to go.
Well,
Or yeah, I feel welcome to correct me on
yes.
that. So.
One moment. So the genuine curiosity, okay, great question. And there's a yes and a no, and it depends on the stage of the conversation that you're in. So fundamentally, the unattached should always be your North Star because that allows you to also let go. I know one of the things that reps have a problem with is when something is not qualified, we are trying to like fight our way to make them qualified. And genuinely curious gives you the freedom to say, okay, I've asked questions, they're not a good fit. So unattached, like this is where it is. Also, I firmly believe that sales is chess. That to do sales correctly or successfully, you do have to think 3 steps ahead, which means that I might ask a question thinking about the next 3 questions and hoping that the conversation goes in that direction, but also, to your point, leaving room that if it does not, I'm okay and we're going to steer in a direction. Nonetheless, if you go into calls without the outcome in mind, you're also setting yourself up for failure. You should have the outcome in mind and reverse engineer your thought process, your curiosity, and your questions, sort of get you there. That creates a path, but don't be so stuck on that path that if it doesn't end up happening, that either, you don't know how to handle it.
Are there any other skills that I might even consider like resilience and persistence a skill, and I don't know if that's a quality or a skill, but you as an expert trainer could maybe shed some light. But like, I know through my experience, you've seen it too, that persistence and resilience is so critical. That's something I think of, but I wanted to open the floor to any other key qualities or skills that, make your heart sing is like, this is, you got to develop this, guys. Let's work on this.
Yeah, I think persistence can be an innate quality, but I think the right amount, the levels of persistence and the type of persistence that you execute on is the part that becomes skillful versus just like, I'm persistent because I'm annoying. We don't want to be annoying, right? I remember one time a client called me, I'm politely persistent. And I took that as the biggest compliment. Same thing with resilience. Resiliency is something that happens the more that we take rejection. So putting yourself in opportunities that are uncomfortable to allow to be rejected builds that resiliency as well. So a level of your life experiences might cause you to be very resilient in your corporate space. Grit kind of falls into that. Like you have to have a certain type of like tenacity, especially if you're going in SDR or you're an outbound account executive where you have some roles. Like you have to have your like tenacious, like I'm gonna go for it type of mindset. I think those are the ones that come to mind for me.
Yeah, pleasant persistence is a term that I coined. That's exactly what you said, polite persistence. It's cool to see our synergies and alignment of values and how we think about sales. And yeah, I'm a really big believer in that because we can be very transactional minded, like any thoughts, and you're just sending these simple follow-ups that you clearly don't care about their world and you're not mindful of how busy they are and you're just self-oriented. But Yeah, I find that I tend to, when I do follow-ups that are empathetic of the fact that, hey, I'm sure you're juggling quite a few priorities, and also I hope I'm not being too overzealous, but I'm just very committed to exploring a partnership together. Please let me know if I'm being too much. Like, not those are the exact words, but kind of things I'm communicating. And then I obviously asking, I thought of you with this case study of a similar customer, maybe dropping a little bit of value, and then maybe rolling it into a question to see if, there's any availability or now is a better time. And that maybe even throwing in that hey, I know timing's everything, but I'm here to when the timing is right. So again, that's not the exact wording, but a couple maybe thoughts and principles that I can weave in sometimes. What are your thoughts on, let's say it's like a follow-up email, and maybe there's different stages of follow-ups, right? Imagine we're in a deal and they're ghosting us. That's different. We could look at when we're prospecting and we actually have never heard from the prospect before. Do you have any whether it's a high level principle or thought, or even like a phrase that you use to follow up in a way that is politely persistent?
And this is someone that you've never spoken to?
Yeah, so this is someone you never have spoken to, but you've been reaching out for a while. And I will say too, Kayvana, sometimes I'll call out like, hey, I've been following up for 6 months. Like, which is great. I got a meeting with a prospect once after 3 years. I was in a role at a startup where I had no constraints on my territory. And of course you need to close deals in the meantime, but we finally got a lunch. So I'm pretty freaking persistent. That's actually crazy. 3 years. And
maybe persistent on brand.
Sometimes I would celebrate in a positive way that, I've been reaching out for a while and I'm really committed to connecting and explore partnership. So I just want to hear how you might approach it if it's someone you've never connected with before.
Yeah. I mean, now we're in the age of so much research and access. So using LinkedIn or using our socials to connect on a level that's beyond just the value of the product or solution that I'm selling, to say like, hey, this is a human here wanting to have a conversation, is where I would go. So typically if it's been a couple months and I don't hear anything, haven't spoken to anyone, I might use what you said, hey, Chris, I'm committed to having a conversation with you based on the fact that I see X, Y, and Z. I know that this can bring value. In worst case scenario, you've learned something new about what's happening or what other people have done to increase this number or get this. So solution, social proofing that as well, to say if I can find someone that also uses it, maybe if I'm going on LinkedIn and I see that they have relationships with the same people that I have who are using my solution, I might, get permission to like name drop or attach that company to say, we see that we're offering this and finding value with this X metric for them. And I feel really confident that we can do the same thing with you. We can hop on a quick call. And then I would ask, hey, if this is strongly something that you are not ready for, please reply. And I'm happy to sort of move on. It's the silence that gives you permission to pursue, right? But then when they actually give a no, for me, that's when I can like actually pause and then circle back later. But if you're given silence, I find it as free range to sort of, maybe you're not getting it, who knows?
Yeah. I might have to go deeper on this because I think follow-ups they fuel the finances. I've heard someone say there are fat stacks in the circle backs. I believe it's like such an important part of sales. Oh my gosh. But I'll never forget is an SDR at Oracle when radio silence for 9 months turned into the rocket fuel that changed my career. Long story short, I was reaching out to a database administrator for 9 months with no response, but I continued to be pleasantly, or as you would say, politely persistent. And I actually put some love and care into the messages. I didn't get frustrated. And in Q4, an email found its way into my inbox. It was a $200K deal, something like that. My account executive was out of office at a bachelor party, and I was able to step up and run the sales cycle with his boss, hang my hat on it, get promoted. And that eventually got me to Google, and that got me to startup. And now we're here having a podcast. And so it's amazing how powerful it is even when we're getting radio silence, which we've all experienced, if we can just keep shooting one more follow-up, right? As you said, that's permission to keep going, but doing it in a thoughtful way, like you described. I love how you threw in the social proof. Oh man, it's so good. And I realize for me, some of the principles that I'd like to apply into messaging to create what I call a communication that cost you something. The prospect that it took effort, and I see that as the down payment to earn the trust for a response, a meeting, an eventual partnership. And so for me, it's value, like clear value we're offering in exchange for the prospect's time. Empathy, like showing we can put ourselves in their shoes. Maybe there's relevant triggers or changes going on in their world that we found based on research. Maybe we're speaking their literal language based on their LinkedIn profile. One of my clients, we found out that the prospect lived by the golden rule, and he threw that into the email, and the guy responded and called him when he said, "We want to build a partnership around the golden rule." The other thing, I can't help it, nerding out here. The other thing is creating a sense of warmth and familiarity through personalization that would not make sense for anyone else. And the final thing is humanity. And you're so big on that. But I did get a meeting with a $40 billion grocery chain, sixth largest company sixth largest private company. And the email basically, it said, I've been following up for a while. Can I take you to lunch? Like, we could have the greatest solutions, but if you don't like me as a person, we can never work together. And if at the end of that lunch, you feel I wasted your time, you can tell me to take a hike and I will. And so I had to throw that humanity thing in there too. But anything else you want to riff on with this topic? Otherwise, I want to take us back to your story as well.
Yeah, I also think that it's worth mentioning that the body and the content of the email is very important. Also, the tactical side of it too, which is, when are you sending this emails? What's your cadence? Are you always sending the email on the same time, Tuesday at 2, because it showed up on your task list? Or are you varying the days? Are you varying the times? Are you creating a thread? All of those things, like, are you using reply? And so that when they finally do open that email, they then can see all the emails that you sent beforehand, right? So there's also that component, which is thought in that strategy as well. So sometimes we focus so much on what am I going to say that we don't think about the how we are going to reach them, actually, like the how behind how we're going to reach them. There is some points to the scheduling it for 3 a.m. or scheduling it for they write at 8:59 when we know that they're going to sit down on their computer. It'll be the fresh at the top of the inbox, right? So there's also some strategy to the how that I thought worth mentioning as well, in addition to the what we're putting in the content.
There is some strategy to the how. I'm so glad you hit on that. We're getting so tactical. I didn't even realize we would. This is so good. A combination of inspiration and tactical approaches that people can apply. And I think these follow-ups will fuel our audience's finances. So you're saying paying attention to the timing of when the email was sent. I'm trying to think, the cadence. That's brilliant, because I guess my question for you is, when you start out a cadence, if I'm reaching out to you, Kayvana, for the first time, you're that top-notch executive I'm trying to get a hold of, I would think of like maybe a Monday at a certain time and a Wednesday follow-up and a Friday every couple days, maybe for the first week, maybe the second, and then maybe doing it once a week. But there's no silver bullet.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, this is a tactical thing that's helpful to the audience. What frequency would you think about sending email touch points? And I'll throw in one more thing. I do this sometimes. I ask a question and throw in more stuff. I realize we do need to multi-thread. So you send the email, you could leave a call and a voicemail that points to your email to increase the chances of a response, and send a LinkedIn connection request and maybe give some love and a thoughtful comment to their post. So we can really create a groundswell, and that could be on Monday. And then we could do that multi-threading on Wednesday and Friday. But what are your thoughts? Take this where you may on the space between touch points.
Yep. So 3 things to consider based off what you said, and hopefully they're all in my head. And as I say one, I don't forget the others. The first thing is industry specific. So I've worked across multiple industries. We have like construction businesses, healthcare, lawyers. Like, I've worked in a bunch of different industries. So my cadence really depends on what I know of the industry. So for example, contractors. They're my favorite. I love talking to contractors. They're very straightforward, very direct, and they'll just send you a one-liner while they're on a ladder, right? Like at any point in time, you can get something from them. So that's the first thing, is industry specific. The second thing is, like I said,
that was such a good insight. Industry specific. And you've got so many good ideas, and man, it's hard to wrangle all of them in, but it has to do with so are you saying it's another factor that informs the frequency?
Correct.
To follow up? Okay.
Correct. And also, again, understanding who that person is, but the multi-threading. Oh, here it is. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay, cool.
Second thing is I consider cadences like a boxing match. So I love boxing. My dad was a boxer. He trained me how to box. You know what I'm saying? You know, lot of stuff going on with the K.
What's the form? Okay, like that? Okay.
Yeah. Boxing match. So when you think about a boxing match, you're not gonna just like punch them one time and then just expect them to like, that's just it, right? You're gonna do some body shots, some head shots, right? You're gonna come in with combos, right? So you're gonna do like a heavy combination, sort of wear them down. And then eventually, after you've worn down the body, you can do one blow to the head and like they're out, right? So I look at touch points like that. So the multi-threading and the consistency, the frequency is a lot in the beginning because you want to get their attention. If you think about your own personal self, if you get a phone call and that's it, you're like, okay, that call wasn't important. If you get a phone call and a voicemail, okay, something's happening here. If you get a phone call, a voicemail, and a text, then you kind of have some insight, and now you know whether or not you want to have the conversation. Because if that text is not hitting, then you're like, I don't want to hear you. You get a phone call, text, a voicemail, then you happen to see that same name show up in your LinkedIn profile, and you're just like, okay, you know. So
and then they leave a comment. They leave a thoughtful comment on your post that you want to get more views on, which I do. That says a lot. Like there's someone been commenting on my posts, and like they're actually really consistently thoughtful comments, and they're helping the algorithm expose my post to more people. I'm actually grateful to them, and I'm much more likely to talk to them.
Yeah. So, I mean, the LinkedIn portion opens up a different can of worms to me, because that's also reps want to do that and don't always have the tools, access, and even the permission to do that as well. So for some companies, LinkedIn isn't a part of outreach. So it is beautiful. I think that all companies should embrace it, but that's not where we are across the board. So I would say sort of removing the LinkedIn piece and focusing on like the emails, the calls, the voicemail, like the things that we know are traditionally built into that formula. That's where I would say is my heavy touch point within that first week. And then every week for me, it's one less touch point, especially if I don't get any sort of feedback. So yeah, I will do like again, politely persistent here, an everyday message, and we'll get 6, then we'll go down to 5, then we'll go down to 4.
I see. Cool. It's good to hear another way of thinking about the cadence. And especially like you said, with those, what were they? The not contractors. Were they contractors? Mm-hmm. That they're very communicative. And so it depends on the industry and the persona. Also, to your point with LinkedIn, there are, I was talking with a leader in the financial services space. Mm-hmm. They're working on very complex transactions, and it could take like over a year to like replace an incumbent, someone who's one of their competitors doing business with a prospect. And their prospects don't really live on LinkedIn, to your point. Right. So it really is industry specific. LinkedIn might not be a good channel for some. Yeah. But man, this is so
even with lawyers, right? Like I worked a lot with lawyers, and lawyers have court days. So maybe their court days are Wednesday and Friday, and like it's literally all day in court. I wouldn't recommend wasting an email on a Wednesday, right? I might send the email on a Tuesday night, schedule it to send on a Tuesday night, so that when they check first thing Wednesday morning, but I wouldn't send one Wednesday at 2 p.m. if I know that they're going to be in court, right? So the timing of that is going to be different for a lawyer. If you are in communication with a gatekeeper, right, or someone, front desk staff, house, managing the front of house, and you've never gotten to the key decision maker, but you have access internally, that's a whole different ball game too, in terms of access as well, right? How are you using, and this is one of my signature trainings, which is like how to increase your opportunity to get to the DM through the NDM, non-decision maker, through that front of house. How do you use them to become your, not use them, but how do you thoughtfully involve them in the process of bringing you to the KDM as well, which is, another topic also.
Yeah. So, and I want to encourage the audience to, keep me honest, Kayvana, because you're taking on a huge opportunity leading training at Uber, but I was going to plug you for people to bring you in to train at their companies, but you're going to be...
We'll see. Well, I'll take all the opportunities. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm very selective of what I say yes to these days, because I want to be very intentional. But I'm always having conversations, and I do have a lot of material that is set up for myself so that I can still be able to support communities, even if it's not like physical presence all the way around. So trainings and opportunity packages and things like that still offer the same level of support, even without me having to be there in every session. So.
Beautiful. So guys, if Kayvana is resonating with you, consider bringing her into your organization. And so, I love your approach, your authenticity, giving us all permission to be ourselves, and also bring a little bit of swagger and, get into the ring and do the boxing match here. So time is flying. We got tactical, and oh man, the only other tactical thing before we get to your story around, I think you were driving trucks.
I was
there, and then we're going to talk about unboring and the brag book and see what we can do. But with the gatekeeper, my impression is to really authentically make them feel special and important and include them in the process. And I used to say things like, I was hoping you could help me out for a moment. You probably run the show around here. And it's like, and they do run the calendar, but I was just curious, just high level, any thoughts on the mentality of turning them into a champion? Because that is something that Kayvana people are searching for. I notice even on YouTube when I look at what's the audience searching for. So clearly you're an expert on that.
Yeah, I actually am in the process of trademarking this methodology, and I call it strategic rapport. And if you want to learn more, you can reach out to me. But there's an actual formula that I've created that has worked across all industries. Not only people apply it to their NDM, non-decision maker gatekeeper conversations, also in their networking conversations as well. But the premise is along the lines of what's one thing that everyone feels comfortable talking about, and that's themselves. So how do we get personal but not too personal facts intertwined with their business state of mind, their business activities, and with the pursuit and the general curiosity of that brings us to them feeling like they are a part of the solution as well, to then bring you to the key decision maker. So 100% what you said, which is making them feel confident, making them feel, I call them the OGs, right? Like, oh, you're the OG over there, right? And affirming their time, their experience, their presence 100%. But then also just like, stop making it such a handoff. One of the first things I hear on conversations when I do my call audits is, hey, I'm Kayvana calling for Chris. And we just completely bypass who I'm speaking to. There's such a difference in the small 2-second exchange of saying, hey, this is Kayvana, who am I speaking with? And you're calling them. Technically, they should be asking you that. But because I'm commanding and being assumptive and saying, hey, this is Kayvana calling from Inside, who am I speaking with? Oh, I haven't spoken to you yet, Chris. We should definitely be talking. How long have you worked there? Are you there on Wednesdays? Because I called last Wednesday. I did not hear about you. Like, where have you been? Right? I am proactively involving myself in a process, and now they have FOMO because they're like, who are you? That's exactly what I want them to ask. I work with, and I want to, because you did. And then now we're like, okay, cool. I have had so many handoffs literally direct handoffs to a decision maker because I have proactively gotten into a conversation saying that those type of
Wow.
proactive
Thank
combos.
you for sharing some of your special sauce that you're going to be, you are trademarking, acting like you belong in the conversation and building curiosity for the gatekeeper thing. Who is this Kayvana? And making it clear that you're a trusted advisor that can help. So thanks for going into the tactical weeds with us, because I notice with these conversations, some of the best stuff is the tactical insights that you provided. Now, you had just a funny story of, I think, where, I don't know if it's heels or stilettos, wearing heels or stilettos when you drove trucks. And there's insight that will unfold for us to really understand what unboring is all about. Because that's a take-home message that I want the audience to get, is what it looks like to be unboring. I think it's so cool. So can you tell us that story?
Yeah. So we were talking earlier in this conversation around evolution that comes with sales of you as a person. And as a whole, as a world globally, I think that what we're struggling with is just the identity. Like, who are we? We're going through an identity crisis where folks are seeking and looking at timelines and grabbing bits and pieces of what we see on social media and attaching it to ourselves without truly uncovering like who we are underneath what we're attaching ourselves to. And when I was working at Nestle, I was driving trailers. So I have my CDL Class A license, and that required me to wear steel toe boots, pants. I was packing out groceries. We were selling DiGiorno, Haagen-Dazs, Edie's, into like Gristedes, New York City supermarkets. And I felt like, okay, I'm in a man's world. I'm going to be like the guys, right? My oversized sweatshirts, my pants, my steel toes. And I just wanted to be one of the guys because that was the language. They were all drinking black coffee and up at 3 a.m. talking shop and whatever. And I got tired of it. I just was like, I like heels. Like, I have a whole closet full of shoes. Like, I want to wear my heels. And I would be grungy, which is every truck driver knows, everyone here knows, like, it's very grungy, wearing your gloves, like it gets messy. And then when you walk out into the floor of these supermarkets and you're having conversations with store managers, you present yourself how you look, right? Which is like, I am the one packing out your groceries, which is perfectly fine. I should still command respect in that regard. But I knew there was more that I could bring that I felt limited to bringing because I would always opt to wear my steel toes. And I said, you know what? She's putting on the stilettos today. It's a Friday. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I had a skirt on. And the whole office was like, what is going on here? But I had a little fanny pack that I would have on my cute little outfit, and I had my gloves in there, I had my cutter in there, I had my shoes in the car. If I needed to swap it out to get down the weeds with my guys, I would. But I walked in with my steel toes, and I found so much success because I felt like the way I was presenting myself was me, and I could do both. Some days I could wear my heels. Some days I wore my steel toes. Some days I did both. In the morning I'd pack out in my steel toes. In the afternoon I'd change into my heels, and I would go back to the stores. That was a decision that I made. Instead of just saying, instead of just going to the manager with my steel toes, I would come back. And they were like, Kayvana, weren't you just here this morning? Yeah, but I wanted to have a conversation now. Looks like that end cap is available, right? Like that end cap for Super Bowl, we're going to fill it up with some Haagen-Dazs. Yes, but I felt so much more confident. And that's very important when it comes to figuring out who we are and our identity and how we show up, because that was in-person selling, but on the phone as well. How are you able to show up as yourself? What makes you feel confident? Yelp has a beautiful opportunity where you can, I think when you hit a certain number, there's like, you can get scooters, and you can get all these things that allow you to move around in the office, wireless headsets, all those things. Cool. And people were selling on the scooter, just scooting around the office, closing deals, because that made them feel like they were, hanging out, being their childlike self. And for you, if you're home, working from home, what does that look like? Does that mean a standing treadmill with a rising desk? Does that mean that you're in a coffee shop? Does that mean that you get dressed like fully because you want to feel prepared? Like, you shouldn't limit what that looks like for you to show up and be yourself when it comes to selling.
So if you had to do a mic drop statement of what unboring is, and to me, it seems like being your full self, completely you. And that's the ultimate way to escape competition. And I'm projecting my own thoughts, but what would your mic drop statement be of what unboring actually means?
Unboring is creating safe spaces for you to show up as the self that you need to be for that moment. And it's key to talk about the safe spaces, because too often we talk about, oh, be authentic, be authentic, be authentic. But there's a tactical component to being authentic. And I'm very formulaic in systems in my thinking. And I don't want to just say, yes, be authentic. I want to give you the steps as to how that is. And unboring is one, giving yourself permission that how you feel you need to show up is okay. Two, creating safety for yourself to do so. Meaning, if you don't feel comfortable with your manager, how can you make your managerial safe space for you? How do you make your home life space safe for you? If you're in the office, how does that become safe for you? How does your commute become safe for you? And then once you create safety, you are able to play and explore and uncover what authenticity is for you, because it's not stagnant. Authenticity is up and down. Who I am today may not be authentic to how I show up on Wednesday, because I'm not the same person on Wednesday that I am on Monday.
Very true.
Pissed me off Wednesday morning and like,
yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. So it's creating safe spaces for you to show up as whoever it is that you are, like in that moment for that situation.
Cheers to being unboring. What a great call to action for our audience. And I know we have limited time, and I did want to hit on a few more topics before we tied a bow on this. Thank you for being very generous with your time and sharing your heart and your energy, which is contagious. Like, I love hearing you talk about your story with the heels, and I could just feel you coming alive. This is the stuff you really believe in and that you embody. So, okay, just real quick on the brag book, because I think it's a cool tidbit that the audience can take with them. Like, what is a brag book, and maybe a tactical tip or two around building your brag book?
Yeah. So a brag book is the record of all of your accomplishments corporately. And I challenge people to do that in their personal life as well. But essentially, the strategic use of a brag book is oftentimes we do things and we don't remember what we did because it seemed like a normal thing to do, and we try to look back at what we've done and then we forget the details of it. So an example, I was working with a client who was switching industries, and she landed a new role in a new industry, and I told her from day one, start your brag book. Brag book meaning everything that you were assigned, everything that you worked on, your project, include screenshots of the day that you met, who was involved in that meeting so you don't forget. Write down what happened in that meeting, then write down the results of what happened. So if you were able to close a complex deal that involved multiple stakeholders in 4 months and it's 7 figures, you need to record that, who is involved, all of those things. The client that I'm talking about was able to negotiate a raise in 8 months of her working at that role because she presented to them. Someone made a comment in a meeting and said, wow, since you started, we were able to get X, Y, and Z. And she said, well, if you're able to get X, Y, and Z, why can't I get X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
And she said, Kivana, can you help me draft up this? Because I know I want to do it ahead of my annual review, because in some places your promotion is a percentage of where you're at. Yeah. So she wanted to increase where she was at so that in her annual review, she can then get a higher incentive on her bonus. And 8 months in, she heard that comment of what she did for the company and how quickly she got there. And she advocated for herself ahead of her annual review, set up a meeting. And your brag book is for you. So it's not a public document that you share with anyone, but it is something that you can refer to so you can confidently express your value, not just because you feel like you're valuable, but because you have the dates, the times, the proof that shows the improvement that you've made within the company.
Another great takeaway from this conversation, guys, let's build our brag books, because it could make the difference of tens of thousands of dollars in earnings.
Absolutely.
So you're leaving money on the table. We're worthy of that. So I love that, Kayvana. And it's such a actionable takeaway. We all can take some time after this and make sure we're keeping account of the great things we do.
And with interviews too, there's been times for myself, right? There's been times when I refer back to my brag book because like someone will ask me for a project and I feel like I haven't done it. And I'll just see Control F and see like, have I ever done this before? And I'll find things that I just forgot. I've been in sales for 15 years. I'm not going to remember every single thing that I've done. So as you're taking on clients, as you're interviewing and you getting situational questions around, have you done this before? Or you ask your recruiter, what can I expect from this interview and what are they going to be looking for? You can go back to your brag book and pull from your real life experiences that you may have forgotten about to use in those sessions as well.
Yep. And it goes right in line with another thing I think about keeping a record of, which is stories, which is like tied to some of our best accomplishments, but to be able to bring out stories on our accomplishments, but also to inspire others. And I'm sure you got a ton of those. And it's been fun hearing some of your stories, man, that like, they're amazing. The last thing I want to ask you about today, and I appreciate your patience with me that we are a little bit over, and I know you have a busy schedule, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on bridging the gap between corporate training and community learning. I'm laughing because I wanted to make sure I remembered this. And
you said it perfectly.
I remembered.
You did. It's perfect.
Get it right. The voice in my head.
Perfect. That is my heart. Bridging the gap between community learning and corporate training is a passion of mine. And I'll admit that I'm still exploring all the ways that I'm able to have this level of impact. But ultimately, it is the fact that a lot of communities or coaches are spewing out false information and taking advantage of this time when folks are trying to break into tech. And even that language I have since like refrained from, but they're just sharing information that's not accurate. And I want to improve the quality of community learning. So I work with a lot of organizations, Sisters in Sales, Black Men in Tech, these organizations that are heavily based on folks that are trying to get into tech sales, that are trying to improve their careers and grow their careers in tech sales, and just telling them the truth from real world 15 years of experience and navigation in the tech sales world. Yes. That's the community learning side. And then bringing an aspect of corporate training, because I am my corporate trainer in sales enablement and onboarding. So you're not just getting my experience, but you're also getting it from the corporate side, which is I'm going to tell you what it is from a hiring side, from an onboarding side, from a managerial side, from an enablement side. So it's not just Kayvana as a seller. It is Kayvana, sales enablement specialist for 15 years of experience that can bridge the gap between what communities are sharing and what corporate enablements are sharing within those organizations. So clients who work with me, organizations that work with me are getting 2 levels of coaching, which is here's my experience, what I've done, how I've grown folks. And then here's the hat where I'm saying, hey, if I didn't know you, but I'm a hiring manager and I'm an enabler, this is what I would be looking for. So this is what you should implement to get to wherever it is that you're looking to go.
Cheers to bridging the gap. What a cool topic that you're passionate about. I'm excited for you to continue to be a thought leader and a big contributor in this space. What a conversation. I'm going to link your LinkedIn profile so people can connect with you. I just want to confirm, are there any other links to like a site or things that where you want the audience to be able to check you out?
That's the best place for now as I'm transitioning my calendar and all of that. That's the best place to go. Please shoot me a message and we'll have a conversation. I can send you the appropriate links to get what you need.
Awesome. What an invitation and opportunity for the audience to connect with someone as amazing as Kayvana. So Kayvana, any final words of encouragement to our audience? Mostly early tech sellers aspiring in the tech sales arena. So any final words of encouragement before we tie a bow on the conversation?
Well, one, thanks, Chris, for having me. And I would encourage everyone. I imagine that folks that are watching your podcast and watching your YouTube channel are seeking knowledge and information to grow their career. And I would encourage them to keep doing so. Do it afraid, right? We talk about confidence a lot, but confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is doing it in spite of the fear. So do it with your pit sweating and your brows sweating. Just do the thing is sort of my actionable item for folks. And regardless of how you're feeling about it, if it's something that's scary, it's probably the thing that you should go for. So trust that and keep learning, keep being genuinely curious, and don't be so afraid that you're immobilized to the action that you know you want to take next.
Let fear be a trigger for action, and keep learning, keep growing, and commit to being unboring.
Yeah.
This was a truly unboring conversation, Kayvana. Thank you. And to the audience, thank you for showing up and being a part of this growing tech sales community. I respect you for investing in your personal and professional development, and to your success in tech sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one.